Welcome into the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for taking some of your time out of your day to hang out with me. We're going to talk a little bit of sports like we always do. What we're not going to give you on the show today is a long list of political statements, which seems to be the big thing now. We've kind of seen that where everybody's got their politics and all that out there. No, we're not going to do that. I'm also not going to talk to you about sweaters. I'm also not going to talk to you about a slew of other things that you probably don't want to hear about anyway. So with that, we are going to get moving here on the rundown, right here on Fox Sports Radio, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. As always, we appreciate you joining the show. I've got a list of things we're going to get into today. So plenty of football topics, including the transfer portal. There is a long list of folks that are in the transfer portal that are there and could help a program. We'll get into that. So, yeah, all of that. And, of course, your calls, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on Fox Sports Radio 1400, of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. You can check us out via the podcast. It's always up and moving at, of course, however you get your favorite podcast. So, yeah, be sure to check that out. Blog page is up at foxsportsradio1400.com. Great year for that. Thank you guys for checking that out over there. All right, so here's what we got rolling down the pipe today. I want to talk about the transfer portal and some of the folks that are still there and how I think that this is going to be the year for the transfer portal, but there's going to be a balance, meaning that all of these young men that are in the transfer portal eventually are going to come out of it. Or what I mean by come out of it is that they may not find a team. Because I'm looking through my list right now, and this is from ESPN, by the way. And it's about 20 pages. 20 pages of players. It's a mess, is basically the only way I can describe it. We'll talk about some of the better players, though. Also, you know, Georgia just won the national title, but they're facing some stuff right now. A couple of things that are going to dominate kind of the offseason include the Todd Monken may return to the NFL, and they may lose their defensive back coach. Could move on, according to a report. One former Gamecock assistant is in the mix to be that guy that goes down and takes care of the defensive backs. We'll tell you who that is. Also, is there room for Stetson Bennett, who just won the national title? Or do Georgia fans want him to move on? Yeah, he did his thing. Got the team the national title, broke that 41-year streak. But do they want him to move on now? So we could talk about that as well. 803-978-1832. I've also got the biggest or the most important bowl wins of the season. Look, generally, as I crumble up some of this, generally the bowl season games are not very good. They're really not. Not lately, especially with everyone opting out. But this comes from, of course, 247 Sports, which they talk about the biggest bowl wins of the season. And I also have, because this made me laugh a little bit, they also ranked college football's most arrogant fan bases. So I want you to think about that. Think about that for just a second. The most arrogant fan base in college football. I'm going to give you their 5, and then I'm going to give you my 5. Okay? Now, arrogancy is a big word here because it's, are they talking big game when they haven't actually won anything? It's kind of how I look at it. There's one that automatically sticks out to me, and we'll get to that momentarily. But one fan base made the 247 Sports most arrogant fan base, and they're not very good at the sport of football. In fact, I venture to say they're one of the worst football programs in the country, but apparently they have the most arrogant fans. Jimmy is already saying it's Notre Dame. I don't know if I'm buying that it's Notre Dame or not. I mean, they've actually won things in the past. So now it's been a while since they've won some stuff. But on the other hand, they are still Notre Dame, and I think they're a respected program. But I thought I'd run through some of these really quick here. They've got Michigan State at number 5. What in the blue world do Michigan State fans have to be arrogant about? I mean, when I sit back, I think automatically, oh, man, Michigan State's just a power. Look, they had a great season with Mel Tucker at the helm. They're paying him an ungodly amount of money to be their head coach. Maybe that's what you've got to do right now. But in the end, I don't understand how they could make a list because they're not very good. So there's that. I think that when you really stop and think about it, that's kind of a tough one to put on your list, to be honest. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown, here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Blake says the most arrogant fan base, top 5, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas, Southern Cal, and Oregon. Okay, I can get into that. Let's give you the rest of theirs first, and then we'll start talking about some of our own, all right? They've got Auburn at number 4. I mean, when I think of Auburn, I think of the team that's constantly chasing Alabama in state. That's what I think of with Auburn. They want you to believe that they're absolutely the best thing ever. So, but the fan base, yeah, their level of arrogancy, I can buy them being up there. I'm going to come back to number 3 in a moment because number 2 is Notre Dame, which Jimmy called from the get-go. Alabama checks in at number 1. What a mess. And then, of course, Duke is at number 3. So I thought that was interesting. Benji makes a good point. He's read this article. He says that has nothing but stroke the reputation of the fan base's teams. Yeah. There are teams that can come out and say, hey, we've got a great program, and you kind of have to put your hat in your hand and say, okay. But then there are other programs that seriously, I'm not really buying them. Michigan State and Duke are definitely 2 of them. But my most arrogant fan bases, if you get into it with any Oklahoma fans, they're good folks. But, man, they think they invented football. They really do. There also is a level of arrogancy with them where, you know, when Brent Venables went from Clemson to there, that's where he wanted to be, and that's fine. But you had to be thinking in the back of his mind, he was thinking, you know what? When I left here 10 years ago, where you guys were basically trying to throw me out and I had to go somewhere else. Yeah, you're loving me now. When they had the whole parade for him to come back, what a mess that turned out to be. But the most arrogant fans in college football, we'll take your take on that at 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. I think Jay agrees with me. Look at that. Jay and I actually agree on something today. Imagine that. I'm not saying the fan base that you hate the most. I'm saying the fan base that's the most arrogant. The fan base that kind of looks down on you. I could kind of go with Ohio State to an extent. I went to the Outback Bowl where South Carolina played Ohio State, in 2000 or whatever. their fan base looked down on the Gamecocks like they were the scum on their feet. And when they had to leave that stadium, the Ryan Brewer game, where Ryan Brewer, who wanted to go to Ohio State, but they were like, nah. So he came to South Carolina and ran all over them in the Outback Bowl. Yeah, I was at that game. The way they had to leave with their hat in their hand after they got pummeled by one of their own that they didn't want. Yeah, that was interesting to see. So Ohio State's definitely in my top 5. Oklahoma's there too. Miami is kind of there. The ACC championship game a couple of years ago when they were playing Clemson, they were acting like they were just the better program than Clemson. I think Manny Diaz was coaching the defense, and they had the turnover chain, and they were looking like they were silly out there with that. They were the first ones to kind of start that. Yeah, they didn't fare too well. They thought they were just going to roll over Clemson in the ACC championship game. Didn't really work out that well for them. North Carolina football fans are kind of on that route too. In the little bit that I've dealt with that fan base, they think that they've invented football, which is kind of interesting in its own right. Anyway, we'll take your calls on that. 803-978-1832. Who do you think is the most arrogant fan base in college football? I've also got something for that Mark Packer said on his channel, where he kind of kicked back at the SEC idiots and the ACC idiots and the ESPN idiots. He was basically slapping people around yesterday. It's kind of cool stuff that he said there on his program. We'll get into that too. The transfer portal. Do you think that's going to be the biggest thing heading into next season? And the stuff that I have on Georgia. So we've got a ton of things here on the program to get you involved with. Jordan says Kelly Bryant cooked them. Yeah, he did. Biscuit says Florida does have an air of that, but they also have a lot of fair weather fans. Yeah, I can see that to an extent. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call. Also, the top 10 most important bowl wins of the season. Even though in some realms the bowls didn't matter. I kind of enjoyed this article today. I thought we'd share that with you as well. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Got to take a quick break in a moment. When we come back, we will have, I want to go to the Georgia stuff when we come back about the folks that they're losing and the coaches recycling bin, where coaches just go from one spot to another, to another, to another. We'll get into that in a moment here on the rundown here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. So many guys moving around in the transfer portal. It's kind of hard to keep up. It really, really is. So we'll get into that as well. Also talking about the most arrogant fan base in college football. I mean, not the fan base you despise the most. The fan base that's the most arrogant, that they lose a game and they act like, There's a bit of Alabama fans that are kind of acting silly right now. I want to read you. This is an actual Facebook post, so I won't tell you the guy's name, but I want to read this. Young is very overrated. Guy is literally about as good as a blanking Jake Coker without Jamison Williams. We need to get all the Bama fans to immediately pitch in on NIL deals to bring in Caleb Williams. I do not want Young as my quarterback anymore. He's unwilling to put his body on the line in a national championship game and has all day to throw it just to discredit the offensive line's work. Take that Heisman away. He doesn't deserve it. Give it to either OSU QB or Jamison Williams. There's some Alabama fans for you. Wow. They want to get rid of the Heisman Trophy winner and bring in the guy from Oklahoma. I'm not making this up. Anyway, that poster does. More of the rundown when we come back. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. I like reading some of these posts from people because it's actually really funny. He did say at the end of it, I'm still suicidal, but I'm coming down from it. Slowly getting back to normal, but can't guarantee I'll make it yet. That's one thing Alabama fans don't have to deal with. You Georgia fans have this over them. They don't know how to deal with failure because they don't fail very often. Not that Georgia does. I'm not ripping that. I'm just saying you Georgia fans know how to put up with some stuff. Alabama fans don't. What a mess. I like Young too. And you know, Nick Saban talked about how he led the offense in the press conference. I thought that was really cool. I don't understand what their problem is with him. No, Alabama fans are on the camp of, and I've got several that are point blank, oh, Nick Saban's going to retire and Dabo Swinney's heading there. I just don't buy that. I don't think that's going to happen. Well, that's just me. Saban is a cult leader. Thank you, Jet Mech. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at RobSoundsGood. As we roll along here today, we mentioned the most arrogant fan bases according to 247 Sports. My most arrogant fan bases are, I've got Ohio State up there as well as Oklahoma, Miami, North Carolina, and it's kind of hard to put Alabama there because they win all the time. So there's that. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Quick look at this list that I found of the biggest bowl games as far as bowl wins. Number 10, they've got the Birmingham Bowl where Houston won over Auburn. I guess that's big on the G5 front. On the G5 front where, hey, we beat an SEC team. I don't know. Not really buying that. They've also got the Liberty Bowl where Texas Tech beat up on Mississippi State. Makes you wonder. The only thing I wondered about that game was did Mississippi State actually want to be there? But I guess that was big for them. Just breaking news as it comes across my Apple Watch here. The Texans have fired head coach David Culley after just one season. NFL stands for not for long. I don't know how that works out. Then they have the Music City Bowl, Purdue winning over Tennessee. Tennessee fans still upset about that. The Cheez-It Bowl, the Clemson winning over Iowa State. And they said that was big because of Clemson's new coordinators, et cetera, et cetera. The Pinstripe Bowl, where Maryland thumped Virginia Tech. Whatever on that. Also, they've got the Peach Bowl. They've got the Outback Bowl with Arkansas beating Penn State. The Peach Bowl with Michigan State winning over Pittsburgh. The Duke's Mayonnaise Bowl where they turn Shane Beamer into a vat of mayonnaise. The Citrus Bowl, Kentucky over Iowa. That was probably one of the better games. And probably the best bowl game of the season was the Rose Bowl. Ohio State and Utah. Billy says, having lived in Gainesville, Gator fans are pretty arrogant. Okay. Blake says, just remember the two-star quarterback that Saban wouldn't let be a walk-on, Dak Prescott, now makes in 1 year what Saban makes in 10. I mean, okay. Good point on that. Billy says bowls don't matter. You're exactly right. I still stand behind that. They are holiday programming for males. That way you don't have to watch, and I said this, the Christmas Vacation and, of course, It's a Wonderful Life and Bad Santa. After that, I mean, you got to watch something. Might as well watch the bowl games. That's kind of where they are, in my opinion. So I thought that the Rose Bowl, by the way, was probably my favorite game to watch. 803-978-1832. If you want to call in about the most arrogant fan base, we'll get into that. The college football transfer portal. Let's look at some of these really quick here. Look at all the names of the quarterbacks here that are in the portal. Jackson Dart, the freshman from Southern Cal. Caleb Williams. Emory Jones from Florida, who we thought was going to be the guy this year. Harrison Bailey from Tennessee. Remember when Harrison Bailey was like, he was the guy that was, he was like, they thought that was going to be the guy at Tennessee. Billy making me laugh. Rob's broke me from watching bowl games ever again. Sorry, Billy. Some of the other names: Braxton Burmeister, the redshirt junior from Virginia Tech. Zach Calzada, the sophomore from Texas A&M, who won over Alabama. There's that too. Then you've got Casey Thompson and Michael Penix Jr., of course, heading from Indiana to Washington. Talk about a change of place. Man, I'm going to go from Indiana to Washington. What a mess. Of course, Keaton Slovis going from Pitt or Southern Cal to Pitt. That's got Pitt fans thinking, oh, they could repeat next season. So there's that. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. Billy says you could roll a national championship team out of the transfer portal. You know what? I might do my homework over the weekend and see if I can get an actual national championship out of the transfer portal. So one of the more interesting moves that I think is going to be felt next season is Zach Evans going from TCU over to Texas. I think that's going to be a big deal, as, of course, Ole Miss lost their leading rusher, Jerron Ely. I think that's going to be a big deal for the folks at Ole Miss. Jahmyr Gibbs going from Georgia Tech to Alabama. I remember when he signed with Georgia Tech, and everybody's like, yeah, this is the guy. Jeff Collins has finally got him a running back. Yeah, he played there. Now he's going to now he's going to go play at Alabama. Be a part of the cog there. What a mess. Some other names that are in the transfer portal that former Clemson running back Lynn J. Dixon's going to play at West Virginia. See how that works out. The tight ends, they've got Jaleel Billingsley from Alabama. Wonder where he'll end up. And let's see here. There was another one too that I had on my list. There's so many players that are considered impact players that are right there. Paul Tachio went from rotating in on the Clemson offensive line down to, hey, I'm going to go play at Georgia Tech, where he'll probably play every play. So maybe that's a pickup for them. And I think that's it from my transfer portal notes. We'll keep you up to date on this because it seems like there are so many things that are running around right now. So many guys. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess. All right, so we'll take a break in a moment. When we come back, there are a couple of coaches that may be leaving Georgia. We'll get into that. And should Stetson Bennett return? And do you think he's going to return? I've read so many different articles that it's kind of hard for me to gauge which way that's going to float. But the guy won a national title, and I guess there's like a 50-50 shot that he may leave. I don't know. You would think you win a national title. I don't think he thinks that he's going to make it in the NFL. But you would think, okay, maybe I'm going to have a chance to play another college season. I don't know why he wouldn't do that, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Rob online, he has to be a great guy. He's named Rob. He says, trying to keep up with it all is pointless at best. Just wait and see what the final 85 scholarships look like after it's all over. Yeah, and that's a valid point. Rosters could completely change, especially after spring ball. Spring ball is going to be very important this year. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon. If you want to talk about the most arrogant fan bases, we'll be happy to take those calls. And this is just your opinion. It's not like they have an arrogant fan base meter, but there is definitely an arrogant fan base or two that are out there. If you want to get into that, we can. 803-978-1832. Tomorrow, we're going to have a former All-Pro linebacker, Levon Kirkland, in studio with us. He's going to break down his thoughts on the national championship game and how that went, and the transfer portal, because he coached in college. Also coached with Bruce Arians, too, so we'll get his opinion on the NFL playoff games this weekend. Looking forward to Levon joining us tomorrow. It's fun to talk with somebody who is actually a real football player, who's actually lined up and played. What a mess. When I'm up here trying to talk about things, I'm like, yeah, we'll just let LeBron talk for me, all right? More of the rundown when we come back. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Yeah, you guys, I can appreciate the coach's poll, but I always go with the AP poll. I know that some people don't like, but I'm consistent with that. So if you want to use the coach's poll, I'm fine, but I always use the AP poll. It's generally the first poll that we get. So, and I kind of value the AP poll because it's from writers from across the country. It's not just coaches. Because I think some coaches will do other coaches favors and rank their team. I think that'll happen. Steve Spurrier is on record saying that he voted for Duke every year. That's true, Biscuit, but Steve Spurrier, I remember him saying he voted for Duke at least every year at the first poll, simply because of the fact that Duke gave him a job. It's a valid point, Lee. Welcome back to the program. We'll head out to the phones. Welcome in Dan. Dan, what's up, buddy?
Hey, appreciate you having me, Rob.
Thanks, man.
So I want to talk about Stetson Bennett.
Okay, go ahead.
You know, I have not been a Stetson Bennett fan, and I have wanted everybody but him to be playing our quarterback, and I think a lot of Georgia fans feel the same way I did. I'm not in love with the game manager philosophy of Kirby. But that being said, you know, Stetson Bennett got us to a national championship for the first time in 41 years, and if he wants to come back and play at the University of Georgia, I feel like he's earned the right to do that. And if he wants to leave, he's earned the right to do that too. And that's just kind of how I feel.
I think that's a valid way to go. But if there are some repercussions, though, if he decides to stay, then you're going to have some guys that are going to leave. And the guys that are going to leave are probably going to be JT Daniels and probably Carson Beck are going to say, you know what? I don't know if I want to wait another year. So, him staying, winning the national title is great, but if we're talking about what's best overall for the program, maybe down the line, you have to look at from the perspective of, can he be consistently that good? Will the defense be there for him to lean back on? You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And the answer to those questions are no. The defense will not be as good as it was last year. And no, he's not going to cover up the warts. But, the way I feel about next year is, honestly, if Kirby goes 8-5 next year, I could care less. This year has earned him 2 rebuilding years as far as I'm concerned.
Wow.
And I kind of feel that, yes, I agree with you. I would prefer JT Daniels. I would prefer us getting a Gunnar Stockton ready, anything that would help us be more dynamic and actually could pull us down another title. I don't feel like game manager football is going to do that for us long term. I think we need something spicier at quarterback, but I also think that with Stetson, I've been hating on him all year, and it's like, he's been kind of proving me wrong. So if he wants to come back another year, he's kind of earned the right to do that as far as I feel.
Hey, man, I appreciate you calling. Thank you so much.
Yep.
There's one route to look at it. Someone, I can't remember who it was, and I wish I would give them credit. It was someone on Twitter referred to him as the Trent Dilfer of college football. He was efficient and did just enough to lead his team to a championship, sort of like Trent Dilfer did with that great Ravens defense when the Ravens won the Super Bowl. I don't know if that's fair to Stetson Bennett or not, but you wonder if it was kind of a pressure cooker type thing this year with Georgia because of that defense. With some of those guys leaving, it makes you think, is what Dan said correct? Does Kirby Smart get a couple of years where he could go 8-5, 9-3? Or is it you need to be consistently where Alabama is? So I don't know. Another note today, Todd Monken may return to the NFL, according to this report. Now, with that means Georgia's got to find another offensive coordinator. Does Stetson Bennett want to come in and have one more year with a brand new offensive coordinator? I don't know. I honestly don't know. So that's something that's interesting too. Also, according to reports, Jamil Ade, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, is going to be moving on, according to Bruce Feldman. Travaris Robinson, the former Gamecock defensive coordinator, is apparently in the mix to be reunited with Will Muschamp in Georgia. They're just going to take a bunch of South Carolina staff and put them over there at Georgia and hope that'll do the trick. But he coached Miami's DBs in 2021 and, of course, worked with Will Muschamp at South Carolina as a defensive coordinator. If he coaches defensive backs, I think he'll be outstanding for Georgia, simply because you look at the defensive backs they had here. He coached one up to be the first defensive player taken in the draft last year. That's real. Israel Mukwamu is a guy that benefited from his coaching as well. So, yeah, J.C. Horn. I forgot his name for a second there, but J.C. Horn was outstanding. If he goes there and just coaches defensive backs, he may be fine. Motivated, dedicated says T-Rob is an excellent coach. Yeah. All right, 803-978-1832. If you want to talk about what Georgia's going to do at quarterback, because that's definitely something that's interesting. It's kind of Stetson Bennett's got 1 year, possibly with a new offensive coordinator. I don't know if I want that or not. If I had to pick, but it's kind of hard to tell the guy that just won you a national title, get the hell out of here. You can't politely do that. It's also, do you say, hey, we're going to have a competition? Even though you're probably going to have a competition anyway, that's not going to look good either. The soccer mom type fans are all in love with Stetson Bennett, by the way. Why? Because he looks like a normal guy. He's not a behemoth player. He's a normal guy that went out there and won a national title. And do you want the bad publicity of, look what they did to Stetson Bennett? He led them to a national title, and then they told him to go away. Rob says, but for once in my life, I can say I trust my championship winning coach. Yep, you can definitely say that. Let's go back out to the phones. 803-978-1832. Welcome into the program. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob, this is the Biscuit.
Greetings, sir. How are you?
Good. I just want to respond to that caller that just called in a moment ago saying that
Sure.
he thought Stetson Bennett. I don't understand the idea of earning the right to come back. Now, he certainly can come back, but did he mean Stetson Bennett coming back, or did he mean him starting? That's two different things.
Yeah, I
Bennett,
agree.
And I think what he was alluding to was that he's earned the right to start. Georgia, look, no team should ever, I don't care who you are, should accept saying that, we'll sit on an 8-5 record for 2 years because we won a national championship. That's not Kirby's mindset, and that shouldn't be any coach's mindset who has a program that's that prominent. That's ridiculous. I mean, look, let me ask you this way. If you took the national championship game and you switched players, you took Bryce Young and put him on Georgia, you put Stetson Bennett on Alabama, what would the score of the game been?
I honestly don't know.
It wouldn't have been close.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have even been close. I appreciate what Stetson Bennett did for Georgia in his couple of years. I really do. I mean, he had a drive when they were down 18-13. He had a memorable drive that people will be watching for 50 years from now. I mean, it was incredible what he did on those 3 plays and then connecting on that 40-yard touchdown pass. But he's still, I mean, he's even the fact that we're having these conversations, so he's not an elite quarterback. He gets going when the running game got going and the play action passing started working and Alabama's defense wore down. But he is not going to, like, Bryce Young is capable of winning you a football game, putting the team on his shoulders like he did against Auburn and winning you a game. Stetson Bennett is not capable of doing that. He needs things around him in order for that to happen. Even though I do appreciate what he did, man, it was amazing. That was his night. And I honestly think they should create a movie out of him. And it should be it'll be bigger and better than what Rudy was for Notre Dame. He was incredible. And it's a great story. It's an incredible story. But he should be the starting quarterback for UGA next year.
Well, you know what? Going into next year, the Georgia defense is going to be different. There's going to be some guys that are gone from there. So for Georgia, I think the way too early predictions have Georgia in the top 5, top 6, whatever, however you look at it. They're still considered one of the early favorites to take home the national title. For them to be in that conversation, they need somebody at quarterback that can shoulder some of the load. They really, really do, because the defense is not going to be as good as it was this past season. I'm sorry. It's just not. There's no way.
They're definitely going to need a more mature vertical passing game next year. They have to, because they won't do what they did this past year or come close to it with him at quarterback and the defense taking a step back the way it did. I mean, there's going to be a lot of change. They still have a lot of talent, and they certainly still can compete. There's no doubt about that. I was surprised to see them at 3. I was expecting to see them somewhere around 6 or 7. But
right, but realistically, I mean, let's just be honest. Having that kind of defense that was in my opinion, a generational type defense, with the talent that's coming back, I mean, you're losing a lot of guys. I don't think it's fair to say you're going to have that. So.
No, I don't think it's fair for the expectation to be another national championship or anything like that. I'm not saying it's impossible, because there are only probably truly 8 teams, maybe 10 teams possibly in the country that can actually win the national championship. So they're in there. But I mean, certainly Alabama has to be the favorite going into next year with the 2-man crew that basically makes a team. I mean, Will Anderson and Bryce Young make a team in and of themselves. Yeah. I mean, that's an incredible pair to have coming back.
You'd like to go to war with those two. I mean, and Nick Saban said in his press conference, basically these 2 guys led the team. Proud of them. It sucks they have to deal with this loss, but man, they were really good. Nick Saban says that, then you should probably stand up and listen.
Should be. They're both amazing. I would take, like I said on the board. I don't know if you saw that. I'd go pick up Bryce Young if he wanted to come to Athens in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine in Alabama. I think that's where he'll be. So
yeah, I don't think they want to get rid of him, but yeah.
All right, Biscuit. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Man. Bye.
Thanks. All right, Biscuit joining us here on the program. Always good stuff from him. We come back. We'll have more for you here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Yeah, I'm not in the camp that Georgia's completely rebuilding. I think they're going to have to I mean, they're going to restructure, though, because a lot of those guys from the defense, I know they're losing Kendrick. Who else are they losing? There's a couple other guys that they're going to lose. So, wait, what? I think Justin's trolling. Yeah, like we didn't have any questions about the Georgia defense, though, going into this season. We knew they were going to be great, like really great. The question was on the offensive side of the ball. Edge, I agree with you. Let's go to the spring game. All right, so here's what I'm trying to convince Jackpot to do. So comment on some of his videos and see if I can get him to do this. I want to take him. I will go to the South Carolina spring game with him if he goes to the Clemson spring game with me. I want to go to both. Hopefully they're on different weekends. We'll go, and I want to do the whole mix. I want to go to do the spring game, and we'll go and pick out some place to eat. We'll do like a taste test thing there or whatever. One of Jackpot's favorite videos where you guys love it when Jackpot does the whole where he goes and tests something. So we'll go and test something in Columbia, and then we'll go and test something in up for Clemson. I want him to go to both. Now, if let's make sure that they're going to have different spring game days. I'm telling you, you think I'm joking. I don't go down to Wayne. That area of town, Gamecock fans get silly. I don't like going down to where that stadium is. It is not very good. You know what? If I could get one of you Georgia fans to get me a pass, I might come to the Georgia spring game. I'll drive down for that. I mean, I'm not going to cheer for you or anything, but I'll go watch. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. My name is Rob Sanders. We're taking calls on the most arrogant fan base. Also, what should Georgia do with Stetson Bennett? Or not what Stetson Bennett should do. I think the ball's in his court. So, yeah, we'll get with that too. I wanted to bring this up. This is from Mark Packer, host of Packer in Durham. He said, he was talking about Joey Galloway, who is an analyst for ESPN. Now, Joey Galloway says a lot of things that are silly. But Joey Galloway said basically the ACC stinks. Now, of course, he played at Ohio State. But here's what Mark Packer said about him. He goes, wait a minute. Joey Galloway said the league stinks when Durham mentioned the ACC having 3 teams in the top 15 of the final AP poll. I'm not going to let that go away because he was wrong when he said it 8 months ago, and he's been proven wrong again. So I'm just going to reiterate. They've got 3 teams in the top 15. The league stinks, right? That's interesting. And then he says 4 teams in the top 20, 3 in the top 15, and we're just going to bury the league before we see any games this year. That's what I learned this year at ESPN. Now, in fairness to Mark Packer, Joey Galloway is put on TV to say things that are going to make people silly. And Mark Packer should know that. But he does have a point. He does have a point with that. He says you got to play the games, all the hype, all that nonsense, talking hits, throwing stuff against the wall, wanting to be heard. Put it on Twitter, social media, all that garbage. You got to play the games, man. That's why we love sports. He's right. He's right about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say that any conference is better than the other, because I think that's just silly. You can't really have a true barometer of this conference is better than that conference. You really can't. Not on the football front. I think you can in basketball. I really think you can in basketball because so many teams make the tournament. If you get in basketball in the Sweet 16, you have 9 teams from your conference in the Sweet 16. Your conference was pretty good for that season. But for football, it's a completely different animal. Completely different animal. Which is why it bugs me when things like this come out, and it's across the board. Billy says, would you rather play an SEC schedule or an ACC schedule? Well, let's give you a perfect example of that. If we go by the top 25 rankings, Clemson played more top 25 teams in South Carolina. Under that logic, would you rather play more top 25 teams? You're competitive. Yeah. If you want an easier schedule, then from this season, South Carolina's schedule was easier than Clemson's. Clemson played more top 25 teams in the regular season. So there's that. I'm not saying one conference is better than the other. I'm just saying exactly what Mark Packer said. We can throw all this stuff from one side of the world to the other, but in the end, the only thing that matters is what happens between the lines and how your teams finish. Not how we spend tons and tons of money, or we have the number 1 recruiting class like Texas A&M does. Texas A&M finished unranked. Unranked. That has to be some kind of absurd stat there. One of the first teams that I've ever heard of to finish the season unranked in the AP poll, but they're going to have the number 1 ranked recruiting class. I don't know how that happens. Billy says, gauge the number of SEC players drafted in the NFL. Once again, if they have all that NFL talent, why can't they have more teams in the top 25? Is it poor coaching? Just saying. Let it all ride out. That's kind of the way you should look at it. Some of the comments. Biscuit says, last time Tennessee lost less than 4 games in a season in 2004. Tennessee, though, does win. Toughest schedule in the country, in my opinion. They did lose all 5 games, but they beat the national champion, the SEC champion, or excuse me, they had the national champion, the SEC champion, the ACC champion, SEC runner-up in the East, SEC runner-up in the West. That's the toughest schedule in the country. It's not called beating up on each other. That is Birmingham talking points there, Rob. Absolute Birmingham talking points. The SEC is absurdly top-heavy. Absurdly top-heavy. I just don't get, they're beating up on each other. Yeah, playing. There are at least, of the 14 teams in the SEC, 8 of them are probably in the 7 or 8 win range on average. You've got 2 really good ones. All I'm saying is let it play out. Absolutely let it play out. All right, tomorrow on the program, don't forget Levon Kirkland, the all-pro linebacker. He will join us. We'll ask him about that, the whole conference stuff. I mean, he's been to the Pro Bowl. He may know some stuff. He's in the Clemson Ring of Honor, so we look forward to having him in with us tomorrow. So, yeah, looking forward to bringing him in with us there. Also, we've got, he'll be in with us all day tomorrow, so 3 to 4 tomorrow. Looking forward to that. In addition to that, of course, here on Fox Sports Radio 1400, you've got Lawton Swan of Clemson Sports Talk. He is the czar of Clemson Sports.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
Yeah, by the way, yesterday, Lawton Swan was singing on his radio show. He was trying to serenade me on his program. Look, sir, if you want to get my attention, please do not serenade me with things like singing memories of the way we were. I don't want to hear that. No, sir. If you want to serenade me, I already told you. I want the opening to Rent. That's what I want, because I know you love the musicals. I mean, I've heard you sing them. Stop holding out on the listeners. Hit them with the show tunes. If you want to go with something from Oklahoma, I'll be fine with that. But you can do Rent, sir. I absolutely know that you can. So stop it. All right, tomorrow on the program, LaVon Kirkland. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll be back at it tomorrow. This is The Rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. Yeah, Rob, with your comment there, and Clemson beat more top 20 or played more top 25 games than every team in the SEC East, with the exception of Tennessee. So that's the truth too. Edwin, what's up, buddy? I don't do the all-you-can-eat buffets, man. I mean, I am a chunky guy, but I don't do all that. That's harsh, Jay. That'd be like me saying to you that you can't go past a meth lab without snorting all of it. Not in the regular season, Biscuit. The regular season, not the postseason. All right, guys. We'll see you later on. Talk to you tomorrow.